Hi, this is Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist with Baby Bloom Nutrition, and welcome to Nap Time Nutrition. Usually we're on Tuesdays, but today I'm here on Wednesday because yesterday was Rosh Hashanah and I was celebrating with my own little kids. So today our topic, inspired by one of the mommy groups I'm part of, is breastfeeding through pregnancy and tandem breastfeeding. When you stop your breastfeeding relationship with your child is your decision. It's a very personal decision, and the rule of thumb that I always like is when you're done or when the child is done, that's when the breastfeeding relationship is over. It's not when someone else tells you it's over. So let's get started. Breastfeeding through pregnancy. So the main concern, there are two main concerns. One is that you're not going to get adequate nutrition for maintaining a pregnancy as well as a breastfeeding relationship. Standard advice is that a pregnancy requires about 300 calories. This is Lucy. She's going to come be my guest star. Pregnancy requires about 300 calories per day above your baseline in order to meet the nutritional needs of the growing fetus. That's different day by day. It's different trimester by trimester. And I'm just going to give the standard advice because this is Facebook Live. And if you want more detailed information targeted at your particular nutrition, you can definitely contact me and I'd be happy to work with you one-on-one. Breastfeeding relationship requires approximately 500 calories per day in order to produce breast milk. And that's a really big sticking point when you're talking about breastfeeding a toddler, because that information, that calorie amount, is generally good for about the first year of life. After that, it really depends. How much is your child eating? How much is their nutrition depending on their milk? Are you really producing that much milk to need 500 calories? And if you're breastfeeding a toddler, chances are you are not providing that much that your body needs 500 calories in order to maintain that breastfeeding relationship with your toddler. So I want to put that out there. So there are certain things that you might want to consider if you're breastfeeding through pregnancy. The first is that there are certain changes that happen normally. During the fourth or fifth month, there are taste changes and changes in the volume of milk that may lead your toddler to decide, hey, I'm kind of done with this. And that's fine if that's what you decide. They may or may not decide to stop. They may or may not decide to start again when they see a new baby breastfeeding. And that's a very personal decision, but it's something you want to be prepared for. If the child is very young, for instance, this woman who has a 1-year-old who's breastfeeding while she's pregnant, you want to monitor for weight changes. You haven't transitioned that child to whole milk yet if you're planning on transitioning to whole milk at all. And what you want to be conscious of is making sure that your child is getting enough calories. If you're talking about breastfeeding a 2 or 3-year-old while being pregnant, this is not as much a concern. But with a younger child, you really want to make sure that their weight is staying on target. Concerns for morning sickness while breastfeeding and decreased weight gain. There's a certain amount of weight that you want to gain with pregnancy, and I'm not going to get into particulars here because it's very controversial and deserves its own nap time nutrition. But you do want to gain weight during pregnancy, and if you're experiencing a lot of nausea and it's keeping you from taking in the proper nutrition to maintain your pregnancy, it could also be affecting your milk supply, and breastfeeding could be affecting your pregnancy. It's not very common. Thanks for the heart. It's not very common, but it does happen. It's something that needs to be taken into account. There are certain things that you can do, whether you're breastfeeding or not during a pregnancy, in order to manage your nausea and vomiting during the first trimester. Generally, it stops there. A big thing is looking at scheduling. They call it morning sickness. Sometimes it's morning sickness. Sometimes it's evening sickness. Sometimes it's 2 in the morning sickness. It depends on you. And something that you want to do if you're experiencing a problem like that is to really journal and see when are you having these problems and try to eat around that schedule. You can look at eating smoothies or working with a professional. I have worked with people who have underweight problems during a pregnancy because of nausea and vomiting. There's a condition called hyperemesis that can land you in the hospital. A lot of people, unfortunately, made fun of Princess Kate because she had hyperemesis, but it is a really true very horrible thing to have during pregnancy, to just be sick all the time and never be able to get anything down. That might be a concern if you're trying to breastfeed while being pregnant, but this is not all that common. Weaning may also be advised during an increased risk pregnancy or if you have experience with early labor. If you've had a pregnancy or two where you go into labor at 24 weeks because of dilation, your doctor may rightfully advise you to wean and not breastfeed a toddler through that pregnancy. But again, that's not very common, and generally you would be able to make the choice to breastfeed through a pregnancy. You may experience nursing aversion. The hormones that you experience during pregnancy will make your nipples a little more sensitive. This can be exacerbated by a toddler toddlers have a notoriously bad latch. You work really hard as a new mom to get a great latch with your infant, but by the time they're toddlers, you're not really concentrating on that anymore, and their latch may slip, and that could cause some problems for you. So you want to give verbal cues. Remember to open your mouth wide. It depends how old your child is, but try to talk to them about it to see if you can improve the latch that way. Some people like to have a snack or talk on the phone or watch TV while nursing just to get through that aversion feeling if they're really dedicated to breastfeeding through a pregnancy. There are also support groups, such as on Facebook. There are support groups for nursing aversion. So changing nursing positions also. If you are nursing a toddler and you've been nursing in a cross position, your belly's getting bigger, your lap is getting smaller. You might want to try laying down to nurse, which might also be good for your own napping schedule. In the end, go with your gut. If your gut says, I should stop nursing, then that's when you stop nursing. And if your gut is telling you this is important for my relationship with my child, then keep going, and there is plenty of support out there. Look for your local IBCLC, International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, for a lot of support. And if you need nutritional support, I work with people long distance. Feel free to contact me. So on to tandem nursing. Tandem nursing is defined as when you are nursing two children who are not the same age. So technically nursing twins is not tandem. So there are some concerns with this that you might have. You may have heard that the milk that first comes in is called colostrum. It's thick, it's yellow, it's really high in specific nutrients, specifically for the baby. But if you are doing tandem nursing, what if the baby isn't getting enough? Well, in the first few days of life, in the first few days of life, you want to be sure to nurse the baby first before you nurse your toddler. You want to make sure the baby gets a good dose of colostrum. The colostrum has a laxative effect to help get that meconium out of their system and to really kickstart their immune system. And so it's good for toddlers, but you might also notice that they'll have some loose stools because of that laxative effect, which is really intended for babies. You might be concerned about scheduling. Do you want to nurse them at the same time, or do you want to nurse your baby first and then your toddler, or are they just different hours entirely? Do you want to assign one breast for each child and switch it up depending on the week or the day? And these are all great conversations to have with your lactation consultant because there are so many options. But in the end, your breasts are going to respond to the demand. It's supply and demand. And if you have two children making demand on your breasts are going to respond. There could be a concern for foremilk versus hind milk distribution between your kids, but over the course of a day, both kids are going to get what they need. What you want to look for in your baby to make sure they're getting adequate nutrition is 8 to 12 times nursing in 24 hours and frequent wet and dirty diapers. So, do I have any questions from the audience? Okay, I haven't seen anything yet, but feel free to ask your questions in the comments below, and I will get back to them as soon as possible. And join me next week, Naptime Nutrition, and I'm open to topics. I haven't decided on anything yet, so feel free to comment on that as well. Thanks. See you next week.